Well, good evening. I'm your host, Robert Wilson with Cowboy Wisdom Unleashed. Tonight's podcast is 7 Ways Why Maverick Questions Rise Me Beyond Mind Museum Limitations of Affirmations. I'm awakened and aware Maverick Questions rise me beyond the Mind Museum because Maverick Questions refused the obedience of what is going on. And as you do this, you awaken to understand that your mind never gets the present moment. Because Maverick Questions refuse the obedience of affirmations and never soothe the ego. They expose it. They expose the ego and your know-it-all ignorance. They never decorate the cage. They dissolve it. Maverick Questions dissolve the cage of rage from yesterday. If they do not repeat what I already believe, they detonate whatever they detonate the questions, and the questions open up the frontier frequencies and ignite the light of life that lifts me out of inherited certainty and into raw awareness. Affirmations try to convince the mind. Maverick Questions confront the museum mind, liberating you from you. Affirmations reinforce identity. Maverick Questions dismantle repetitive scripts of your identity. Affirmations polish the museum. Maverick Questions burn it down. Burn the museum down. I rise because Maverick Questions force me to sense beyond the mind's reruns. They pull me into energetic perception where veracity is felt, never recited. They activate the sovereign frontier within my imagination where I can rise above my memory mind. Where I remember I am the liberator of me, and no affirmation can grant me what my awareness already is. Maverick Questions are the savage wise voltage that delete limitation. They are the breath-driven clarity that bypasses thought. They are a politically incorrect inspiration that refuses cultural permissions. They are the liberating lingo that cracks open the cage and opens a door for me to soar, as they are unpunctuated pulses that carries me past the museum mind onto living present moment magic and optimism. I rise because Maverick Questions make me free, open me up to be free. I rise because Maverick Questions open the way for me to feel sense authenticity. I rise because Maverick Questions make me sovereign. Why Maverick Questions rise me beyond repetitive affirmations. Maverick Questions rise me because they refuse the mind's museum of repetition. They do not chant the mind's comfort lines. They crack the floor beneath them. They never reinforce identity. They expose it. They never polish the cage. They melt the bars of the cage, unleashing my frontier frequency ignitions that lifts me out of the affirmation loop and to sense raw sovereign clarity. Affirmations try to convince the mind. Maverick Questions confront the mind. Affirmations repeat. Maverick Questions rupture the lining of all your negativity and let it flow away. Affirmations decorate limitations. Maverick Questions delete it. I rise because Maverick Questions force me to sense beyond the mind's reruns. They pull me into energetic perception The truth is felt, never recited. They activate the ungoverned frontier where I remember I am the liberator of me. As zero affirmations can grant what awareness already is. Maverick questions are the savage wise voltage that destroys limitations. They are the breath driven clarity that bypasses thought. And they unleash the politically incorrect inspiration of me that refuses cultural permission. They are the liberating lingo that cracks open the cage. They are the unpunctuated pulse that carries me past repetition onto the living presence as I rise. Maverick questions free me to be me as I rise, because Maverick questions wake my authenticity of my natural abilities. I rise because Maverick questions ignites my sovereign savvy. Why affirmations are captive vocabulary, whitewashing the museum mind. Affirmations repaint the cage, but affirmations never free me. They decorate the prison. They apply the fresh coat of linguistic paint over the same inherited identity walls. They keep the museum mind intact by convincing me the cage is positive, never obsolete. Warrior wise veracity, repainting a cage is still captivity. Affirmations repeat the museum's vocabulary as affirmations recycle the same words the mind already believes. They reinforce the museum exhibits instead of dismantling them. They keep me inside the ancestor-approved, education approved, and socially approved lexicons of bonded me to my yesterdays. Warrior-wise veracity, repetition is obedience, never liberation. Affirmations bypass awareness and protect identity. Affirmations soothe the persona instead of confronting it. That's what Maverick questions. They confront your limitations and your boundaries to open the way. They avoid the raw frontier where Maverick questions ignite real protection. They protect the museum's mind identity scaffolding by offering comfort instead of clarity. Warrior wise veracity, comfort is the enemy of sovereignty. Why Maverick questions rise me out of captive control of self-help, personal growth, self-improvement, punctuated writings, and therapy. Maverick questions break the obedience loop. Self-help, personal growth, and therapy often keep you inside a loop of structured improvement. Obedient reflection and predictable emotional narratives. Maverick questions rupture the loop, open you up to refuse the programmed path of fixing yourself, to instantly ignite the frontier debonair flare of sovereign awareness. Warrior-wise veracity, liberation begins where improvement ends. Liberation begins where improvement ends. Maverick questions delete the punctuation cage. Punctuated writings teach you to think in tidy sentences, tidy emotions, and tidy conclusions, and all museum mind architecture. Maverick questions remove punctuation entirely. They force breath to become the architecture and the presence to clarify your whys. This unpunctuated writings are breath punctuation. It's natural punctuation. Warrior wise veracity, unpunctuated perception dissolves the cage of intellectual correctness. As Maverick questions expose the captivity beneath self-help personal growth often reinforce the identity they claim to improve. Therapy can become a museum of rehearsed stories. Maverick Questions bypass all that. They confront the identity instead of confronting it. They confront the identity instead of confronting the identity. The rise you of raw awareness where sovereignty replaces all self-improvement as warrior-wise veracity confronts identity, frees you, improving identity and preserves it into fresh, illuminated life. Why Maverick Questions and Energetic Liberation rises me out of the captive restrictions of change, heal, create, transformation, and forgiveness. Maverick Question dissolve the myth that change requires effort. Change becomes a cage when the mind treats it as a task, a project, a self-help assignment. Maverick Questions rupture that myth to set you free to ride across your frontiers of foresight, realizing omnipotence, naturally transcending through life with ease. They pull you out of the improvement treadmill and onto the raw frontier where change happens because awareness shifts, not because you work on it. Warrior-wise veracity, change is a byproduct of clarity, never effort. Energetic liberation bypasses the emotional bureaucracy of healing. Healing becomes captivity when it turns into endless processing, revisiting, analyzing, and narrating old wounds. Energetic liberation bypasses all that. It dissolves the wound's architecture instead of negotiating with it. It rises you on to the frequencies of foresight to light your life, where healing is never the journey, it's a deletion. Warrior-wise veracity, liberation heals faster than an analyst ever will. Maverick Questions collapse the identity that limits creation, transformation, and forgiveness. Because creation, transformation, and forgiveness all become restricted when the identity is still in charge. Maverick Questions confront that identity. They expose the inherited roles, the ancestor scripts, the museum mind assumptions that keep you repeating the same emotional patterns. When identity collapses, creation expands, expansion accelerates, and forgiveness becomes natural instead of force. But for appreciation shows up, dissolving forgiveness. Warrior-wise truth identity, as Maverick Questions are the demolition. While energized listening and Maverick Questions rise me out of indoctrinated education. Indoctrinated education vocabulary, PhD programming, and mind museum control. Energized listening deletes indoctrinated vocabulary. Indoctrinated education trains you to think in pre-approved words, pre-approved concept, pre-approved interpretations. Energized listening bypasses all that. It tunes you into your raw signals beneath the language, opening up your liberating lingo, the living pulse that exists before circulation, correctness, or academic framing. As you listen from awareness instead of vocabulary, the education cage collapses. Warrior-wise authenticity, listening beyond words, frees you from the words that once controlled you. Maverick Questions rupture PhD programming. PhD programming is the pinnacle of intellectual obedience, citation, worship, framework, loyalty, and complexity addiction, and hierarchy compliance. Maverick Questions detonate the architecture of yesterday and your mind binds of your museum. They refuse the academic throne to pull you into perception instead of theory. Savage clarity instead of complexity. Sovereignty instead of credential-based identities. Warrior-wise authenticity. One real question destroys 10 years of academic conditioning. Warrior-wise authenticity. And one real question destroys 10 years of academic conditioning. Energized listening plus Maverick Questions collapse the Mind Museum. And the Mind Museum is built from education, lineage, social norms, and intellectual identities. Energized listening dissolves the museum walls. As Maverick Questions shatter exhibits, together they rise you onto the frontier of foresight to light your light of life as awareness replaces knowledge. And that is something that is quite unique when you open up to understand it. Awareness replaces knowledge. And learning is replaced by comprehend, thinking by inspiration, knowing by awareness. Knowing and knowledge are replaced by awareness. Perception replaces memory, and sovereignty replaces indoctrination. Warrior-wise veracity. Liberation begins when you stop curating the museum and start deleting it and rise to what's beyond. That is something I really opened up to understand. Rise to what is beyond. How do you feel when you say that? I rise to what is beyond. Maverick Questions rise you to what's beyond. And something else I'm going to share with you. And instead of writing affirmations and saying affirmations, throw them in the garbage. Ask the question. Maverick Question. Like the best one I can come up with so far is like when you want to release weight. Why I release the weight to look good and feel good, looking prosperous and pristine in my life. Why is releasing the weight so easy? That is the question. Why is releasing the weight? Why is life so easy? It's taking that museum mind binds and opening them up to a flow. Because Maverick Questions destroy the mind's predictable pathways. Untamed curiosity can never live inside the museum mind familiar hallways. They're actually stallways. The museum mind is nothing but stallways. Maverick Question cracks the stallways open. They interrupt the obedient roots of logic, correctness, and intellectual safety, forcing your awareness into the wild frontier of debonair flair to feel life's adventurous ingenuity, realizing life is for me to experience my way. An uncharted terrain. Warrior-wise authenticity as curiosity awakens the moment predictability dies. Because Maverick Questions ignite instinct instead of intellect. Intellect tames curiosity, instinct unleashes it. Maverick Questions bypass the thinking memory mind and hits the frontier, sensing the raw energetic compass within you that understands the adventurous ways to explore without permission. And that's the thing, you want to explore your life without permission. This ignition pulls you out of the analysis and the paralysis onto the sovereign discovery of your rocket ship of fun of the sun's splendor. Warrior-wise authenticity. Curiosity is instinctual, never intellectual. As Maverick Questions remove the cage of correct answers, curiosity dies when correctness becomes the goal. How's the world stuck in political correctness and can never move forward? That's what inspiration will rise you out of that. All this, like the Maverick Questions, energized listening, all will move you forward. But you got to get out of the stuck in the muck of the comfort zone cloning we all encompass. Maverick Questions delete the need for right answers entirely. They open a field where exploration matters more than conclusion, where sensing matters more than solving, where your awareness matters more than achievement. Warrior-wise energy. Curiosity thrives only where political correctness crashes and burns. Why Maverick Questions rise beyond to unleash the untamed curiosity. Because Maverick Questions destroy the mind's predictable ways. Untamed curiosity can never live inside the Why Maverick Questions awaken energetic liberation, politically incorrect inspiration, unleashing you from your museum mind binds. And if you ain't got any museum mind binds, I'll loan you some. Because I'm discovering fresh ones every day to send on their merry way. Maverick Questions awaken me because they refuse the museum mind's curated exhibits. They never bow to my indoctrinated vocabulary. They never obey the polite rituals of self-help. They never worship the political correctness of cultural comfort. They rise me on to the energetic liberation, where awakened in awareness becomes a frontier and sovereignty becomes my stance. Affirmations try to repaint the cage. Maverick Questions tear out the foundation. As therapy tries to reorganize the museum, Maverick Questions burn the map. Personal growth tries to improve the persona. Maverick Questions expose it. This is why they carry savage acumen. They cut through the mind's whitewashed corridors. They confront the obedient vocabulary inherited from education, lineage, and PhD programming. They ignite politically incorrect inspiration, the kind that speaks truth without cultural permission. They unleash the raw frontier where I remember I am the liberator of me. Energetic liberation rises in me because Maverick Questions force me to sense beyond the museum binds, beyond the curated identity, and beyond the inherited roles, beyond the obedient narratives, beyond the mind's safe, punctuated corridors. They awaken untamed curiosity that activates sovereign perception, that deletes the cages I didn't know I was still carrying. And that's the thing, we have cages inside us. We have no idea they're there. But when you start opening up to liberation, asking questions for what's beyond, you kind of stumble upon them to let them go. I rise because Maverick Questions frees me from me as I rise because energetic liberation makes me real, the real deal, dancing through life with ease. I rise because political inspiration makes me unstoppable. Political incorrect inspiration makes me unstoppable. Why Maverick Questions rise you beyond Because Maverick questions confront the mind's authority. The mind assumes it is the ruler, the narrator, the architect of reality. Maverick questions challenge that throne. They expose the mind's assumptions, its inherited vocabulary, its museum-level certainty. When the mind's authority is confronted, awareness is beyond it. Warrior-wise veracity, you rise the moment you stop obeying thought. Because Maverick questions ignite sovereign perception. Most questions are obedient, designed to confirm what you already believe, but Maverick questions do the opposite. They activate the raw frontier sense that exists before conditioning, before correctness, and before identity. This ignition pulls you out of the museum mind and onto the flow of your sovereign, savage clarity. How do you like that word, savage clarity? I love it. That's my word. I invented that word. Warrior-wise wizardry. Perception is freedom. Belief is captivity. Perception is freedom. Belief is captivity. Because Maverick questions delete the cage of predictable answers. Predictable answers keep you safe and obedient. Maverick questions remove the need for answers entirely. They open a field where exploration replaces conclusion. See, conclusions and solutions are confinement. Curiosity replaces certainty, and awareness replaces repetition. The more I open up and to feel and sense awareness, I awaken me to ignite new, fresh frontiers. As answers stop mattering, your consciousness rises beyond limitation. Warrior-wise liberation begins where answers end. Why Maverick questions rise you beyond your mind museum's thinking, knowing mind, because Maverick questions expose a museum mind's exhibit as assumptions. The mind museum is filled with exhibit labeled truth. Truth and reality are fallacies because truth comes from yesterday and your viewpoints, opinions, and beliefs and all the stuff you have inside you. And knowledge is from yesterday. They're all assumptions inherited from education, lineage, cultural, and past identity. Maverick questions crack those exhibits open. They reveal that what the mind calls knowing is actually curated repetition. Warrior-wise truth, you rise the moment you stop mistaking memory for awareness. Maverick questions bypass the mind's self-protected narratives. And the mind thinks it knows itself, but that knowing is just a defensive story, a survival narrative, and a polished identity mask. Maverick questions bypass the mask entirely. Maverick questions bypass the mask entirely. They confront the mind's self-description and force you into raw perception instead of rehearsed identity. Warrior-wise authenticity. You rise when you stop believing the mind's autobiography. You rise when you stop believing the mind's autobiography and you express your nowography. Maverick questions delete the illusions that thinking equals truth. Museum mind thinking believes that thought is truth, thought is reality, thought is authority, and that's all BS. Maverick questions destroy that illusion. They reveal that thinking is just internal noise shaped by conditioning, never by sovereign clarity. When thought loses its throne, awareness rises beyond it. As thought loses its throne, awareness rises beyond it. Warrior wise geysers you to rise when you stop worshiping thought as truth. Why Maverick Question rise you beyond, unleashes energized listening to hearken the fresh wisdom of your day, coloring your life with your dreamers healthy, wealthy, fun extravaganza. Maverick Questions crack open the mind's museum walls. Museum mind is a gallery of old thinking, inherited vocabulary, and yesterday's logic. Maverick Questions smash those walls and force your awareness into an open sky. When the museum collapses, energized listening awakens, the kind that hears fresh wisdom instead of recycled thought. Thoughts are recycled from yesterday. Warrior wise wisdom. Fresh wisdom can never enter a sealed museum because Maverick Questions activate energized listening. And energized listening is never hearing with ears, it's sensing with sovereignty. See, that's the thing. Hearken is sensing. Maverick Questions ignite that sense, the frontier perception that bypasses indoctrination, incorrectness, and mental reruns. See, mental health ain't all what it's supposed to be. Mental health is in the mind. And I'm going to do a podcast on that just so we can open up to the Maverick Questions of your dreams. This ignition lets you hearken the wisdom that colors your life with your dreamers' wealthy, healthy, fun extravaganzas. Warrior wise veracity, listening from awareness, paints your world with fresh colors of your charisma and your charm. Maverick Questions unleash untamed curiosity that fuels your dreamers' extravaganzas. Untamed curiosity is the engine your healthy, wealthy, fun life flows on. Maverick Questions remove the cage of predictability, answers, and lets curiosity, untamed curiosity, roam free. When curiosity is unleashed, your life becomes a frontier canvas, vivid, abundant, adventurous, extravagant. Warrior wise veracity as curiosity is the brush. Maverick Questions are the spark. And your hearkened wisdom is the colors that paint your life your way. And I want to thank you for listening. It was had a little malfunction at first, but you can't stop with malfunctions. All they are is they're life expanding adventures. Anyway, I want to wish you a good evening, and we'll see you Thursday night with something. I don't know which one it is. I got 2 or 3 to pick from. But I really enjoy you. May your life be as blessed as you are a blessing to me in the world.